Welcome to the Atlanta Men's Workshop speaker and workshop recordings. Atlanta Men's Workshop is held every spring and fall at the Rock Eagle 4-H campus in Eatonton, Georgia. That's just about an hour east of Atlanta, Georgia. Please visit our website at atlantamensworkshop.com or see the link below to find dates and details to join us. Partial scholarships are available to those in need. We hope you enjoy this presentation, and we hope you will come join us at the Rock. Until then, we shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. My name's Chris. So as a committee, I guess prior or just after the last workshop, we had sat around and talked about what we could do to enhance what we were currently doing. And one of the things that has been near and dear to my heart is talking about the legacy of this workshop. And just very briefly, I've been coming since 2002, and the workshop has had that much of an impact on my sobriety and then some, but this is not about me. And a large part about that is these guys and one other sitting up here this afternoon. So I thought it would be important and also informational to have these guys share their experience, strength, and hope, I guess kind of growth in the workshop, if that's fair. So what we'll do is we'll hear from them, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers in the audience. Does that sound good? So why don't we start off in the usual fashion with a moment of silence followed by the serenity prayer if we could. Prayer.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
All right. Jeff?
Okay. Hi, I'm Jack Busco, an alcoholic. And I wasn't sure what we were supposed to do, and I'm still not, but I'll tell you a little bit about my experience with the Rock. And so most guys seem to come up here the first time because their sponsor talked them into it, told them to, whatever. I have the opposite sort of thing. 20-some years ago, my friend Philip over there asked me to be his sponsor. And one of the nice things about being sober a long time is that people who are sober and have great sobriety ask you to be their sponsor because their sponsor died or moved away, whatever it is, and then you look like you really know your stuff and you didn't have anything to do with it. Anyway, Philip bugged me a couple times about coming up here to, you got to go to the Rock, you go to the Rock. And I've done stuff like this, like I said this morning, the whole time I've been sober. Maybe I didn't say that, but I have. I went to my first retreat when I was sober a month, and I do a lot of this stuff. And I came, my kids were still at home every year, every other year, a couple times, and then I came twice, and then the kids were all gone, and now I do every one. And I was here in January for the Heavy Hitters retreat, and my home group has one here. We'll be here next month for another one, and I love doing this stuff. We're going to go to the International in July, and because it turns out that at these things, I said this in our cabin meeting yesterday, that when you go to things like this, if you're new, you notice that it seems to be kind of top-heavy compared to most meetings with people with long-time sobriety, right? And the reason is that if you do this kind of stuff, you stay sober for a long time. Anyway, so I came up at Philip's suggestion, and I've been coming up here for 20 years, I guess. I love being here. I've had every experience I think you can have here, times when I've had to, get real serious and honest with somebody and tell them the truth about myself because of something I was going through. Guys have done that with me. That's, to me, that best part of being here at the Rock. And times when I've attended every single thing I could, and other times when I've spent most of the time just talking to guys one-on-one, walking around the lake or whatever. And or like this afternoon, I was talking to a couple of guys who were saying, we need to go and talk about whatever. And we went over and we sat outside the banker's building, and within about 15 minutes, it turned out we had a meeting with 10 guys talking about anger. And it went on for about an hour, hour and a half. It was just this sort of pop-up serendipitous meeting. And man, it was great. You know, so you never know what's going to happen. It's just being here, being available, being open to whatever comes next. And in my case, trying to think like a new guy as much as I can. I don't ever want to be, you know, the guru. I get enough of that stuff in meetings. People find out how long you're sober. A lot of you know that when you're sober a long time, then they want to ask you questions and find out. I don't want to have my own seat at my home group. I don't want to be the bleeding deacon they warn us about in our literature. You know, I want to tell the truth about myself, and I still got a long way to go. And this is a great place to come and just be real and get to meet people and see old friends. And that's everything I have to say about the Rock for now. Thank you.
You're available to answer questions. My name's Ray. I'm an alcoholic. You know, we think about the legacy, and we think about, yes, the original start of AA in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and all those years, and Bill W. and Lois. But, you know, our legacy for me is here. This is where it started for me back in 1982. I'm blessed to have so many memories of this place, and not only this place, but the people. I started out as just a guy that was wandering around, not doing anything with my life, and I walked into a clubhouse, and that was the last thing I remember that had any meaning to me, because then I started to move forward in things I knew nothing about. A sponsor grabbed me, and the rest is history. But it's not history in this regard. It's the people that I contacted over the years, and the people I can tell you about on a personal level that have so much meaning in my life. The two guys up in the top up here, I have stories about them that I would like you to ask me about, because they're beautiful. I have stories about young guys that came into NABA when I was 8 or 10 years sober, and I ended up going to their weddings. They came in dirt. I ended up going to their weddings. I ended up going to their baptism of their children. That's the kind of legacy that I've felt has been so important to me. And then, of course, the legacy being that I've lost so many friends that I've known over the years, but the legacy continues with the new guys that come into this program. That doesn't change. That's where the legacy continues to be so strong. When this happened in 1982, there was 125 guys over at the Cranert building. And it's hard to describe how that's grown, because it's incremental, but by the same tone, every 6 months, new guys. And when we hit 300, we got kicked out of there. We had to come here. You know, that was the rules, because that place was a fire trap for 300 guys. And but expeditiously, you can see how it's grown. And here's the other thing I think is important about this legacy and this workshop. The legacy is continued around the country for the premise of this workshop. It started way back in '82, and I think there's 7 or 8 workshops around the country that are patterned after this one originally. Somebody got an idea. Some guy came from California. Boom, he started a workshop out there. Montana's got one. North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida. Those are the things that really the legacy means so much to me, because this thing will not die as long as we know who we are and are not afraid to talk about it. And please ask questions if anybody wants to hear personal stories from me. Thanks.
Thanks, Ray.
Hey family, I'm Jule. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Well, I don't know if y'all can tell or not, but I'm really the baby in this bunch. Y'all would have known that if I hadn't said nothing. A guy named Po' Boy Rice used to say that all the time. And things that I like to talk about are some of those legends that I found when I got here. I came in 1986. I did not know this thing was only 4 years old at the time. I thought it had been here forever. I came here. It's Joe, Richard, Arthur, Matthew. All those guys came from the same halfway house I was in, and I got 30 days clean at NABA. I picked up a 30-day chip, and a guy named Bob Carver. I spent all morning trying to figure out his name. Bob Carver gave me application to the Rock. And by the time I got here, I had 50 days clean and sober. And I tell you that because all of my sponsors, including my current one, came from here. Every last one of them were here when I got here. And matter of fact, I knew I was supposed to get a sponsor, so I was shopping, and I went to the sponsorship workshop. And I chose my first sponsor because he was running that puppy. And if I'm gonna get one, I might as well get the best one they got. And Gerald Daly is his name, and he was sponsored by a guy named damn, it went away. I lost it. But his sponsor and Bill Sanders were both sponsored by Doc Crandall. And Doc Crandall was sponsored by Bill Hollingsworth, the little guy on the far right with Doc Crandall right there. They were sponsor and sponsee. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged to something. And I mean, I got some first step information inside of me that would verify that I had difficulty trying to fit in, and like most of us seem to do, you know what I'm saying? That's one of our prevailing symptoms. We always feel that ancient apartness. And I found my way here, and pretty much like Ray said, you know, I was really aimless. My life was aimless until I found this particular grouping of men trying to do something that I needed to do something with, and it was kind of inspiring to find a group of men that were committed to doing something that I needed to do. You know what I'm saying? They already had it laid out. They already were working it out. They already had what they wanted to do, and all I had to do was just partake. All I had to do was just get involved, and I was fortunate because my sponsor at the time, the guy that ended up that preceded Chris, Bill Sanders, was the sound man, and he did sound. Bill Sanders started out doing sound. And I thought that was a big, important job. You know, we come here, we see all these people doing things, like you look at Chris today, and some of you he might be an iconic figure to him. Well, the same thing happened to me when I first got here. The people that were running this were iconic figures. I don't want to date him or nothing like that, but my current sponsor was in the room at my first retreat. And he's Polish, and he was telling Polish jokes. And I just, you know, my head spun around, and they were funny ones too, you know. And, you know, African American not gonna laughing at Polish jokes. But, you know, he's always been one of my heroes because of that. And I found it here. You know what I'm saying? We all got our stories about how our daddies abandoned us or how we never knew them. I found a lot of daddies here. I found a lot of guys who rooted me on here. And Ray, you know, I played golf with Ray. I was a rookie. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. He kept me from committing suicide on the golf course. But, you know, I didn't know you couldn't master that game. I just didn't know. Ray knew. And we just, you know, you build relationships. I'm talking about these guys because they're up here. You know, Mr. Paul McKee. There's guys out there, Richard Shellman from Perry Macon. We just run into one another, and you know, I get friends. He talked about the rocks. Well, 2 years after I got here, I met a guy out on the parking lot my first night. 2 years later, him and his sponsor started Roanoke. And I've been going to Roanoke. You know, we got lost up at Smith Mountain Lake and finally found it, and they ain't been able to hide it since. Tennessee started out having fish fries. The next thing you know, it's the Central Florida Men's Workshop. You know, most of my sponsees, who I mandated if they were going to be sponsored by me, they'd come to Iraq. One of them stayed clean and sober long enough. Now my home group has a rock every January, you know, and it's patterned after this. Ray was telling you. Me and Sherlock went about 10 years, I don't know, it's been a minute. We went to California to Back to Basics in San Diego. Most of those guys had come here, you know. And one of our older icons, Steve Orr, we just honored him the last time. Steve Orr moved out there, and the connection was seamless. You know, I walked into the Roberts Roofs meeting in Vista, California, and it felt like my home group. It was seamless, you know. And there are things that made this thing bigger than me, you know. It made, you know, they're slowly but surely over time, if you keep coming and you start finding out about the Atlanta Men's Workshop, it's really bigger than even the committee. I mean, we just trying to hold on to this thing as best we can, man, because it's such a you know, a task, not a daunting task, but a task that requires full commitment. And it's you know, I could go on, but I want to hear from this guy. He might tell you all a Polish joke, so.
Thanks, Jule. Really appreciate you. My name is Ron Mazurek, and I do have to say something about him. Is that we were in a Cranard building, and Ray would also remember this. We used to smoke then, and you could never see the speaker. The room was all filled with smoke, and you're lucky there's a legacy, because we used to live in little cabins, and we used to fight our way with the ants that were crawling around so we could take a shower. You know, that's what this used to be like, but the most important part was the sobriety. For me, I started coming in 1983 because Bill thought that it would be a real good idea if I did that, and I met Bill when I moved from Minneapolis to Atlanta. It was him and Doc that were at the 8111 Club. That became my home group. And I was so grateful that I did come, because I share a couple experiences with you. I was having some kind of ego issues when I came here. Because of my position in my company, I could ask anybody to do anything and they'd jump and do it. Well, I tried that at home. And as you can tell, we had a marriage relationship issue. Carol did it begrudgingly. But then I came here after she told me that she wasn't going to put up with that anymore. And Dr. Steve and Dr. Ed had the sex and sobriety session. Now, being an alcoholic, I thought I was going to learn about different positions when I came here. But what I picked up from it was this. It was a lifesaver, because they said, don't treat your spouse like she's a hostage. And in my mind, I figured that she had no recourse. We were Catholic and she could never divorce me. So I could treat her just the way I wanted to. And then I went into that session and I learned that, you treat your spouse like you would treat a sponsee. Be kind and listen to them. And then I learned little techniques like give her an I love you card at least once every 2 weeks. Bring her a bouquet of flowers once a month. And if you can afford it, go on a brief trip in 3 months. But if you can't, let me tell you what you can really do, and I know you can. You can wash dishes. You can vacuum rugs. You can polish furniture. You could even wash clothes. So why don't you take that burden away from her? And I went and I did that, and it was amazing how we became intimate friends again. And it was just love again came into our lives. When I came in the door after traveling, she would say, "It's good to see you, honey," where I'd show up before and she'd go in another room. But I learned that here. And today we got 59 years together. And I almost blew it after 40. Almost blew it. And then the other was with Bill Hollingsworth. I met him here. He was our spiritual Sunday morning speaker. And I just fell in love with the man. He was so humble. And I was in Washington, D.C. Now remember, as Jule said, he's from North Carolina, Roanoke. And I was in Washington, D.C. on a business meeting, and we were there to propose building hurricane-proof houses in Florida, my company. And we presented, and first day to prove that we had the ability to do that. The second day, everyone we were introduced to had their hand out. We would like you to send X amount of dollars to my son, P.O. Box. He's attending Clemson. Then another one would say we'd need a monthly payment, and this is the amount we would like. 12 people came to me. And then I was told that if I did that, I could have the business. There's only one problem. What Bill Hollingsworth shared about honesty and integrity was still in here. And so I called him and I said, "Bill, I need to talk to you." Now, he didn't say, "Oh, wait a minute, let me check my appointment schedule." He said, "When are you coming?" I said, "Tomorrow morning." He said, "Let's meet at McDonald's at 8:30 in the morning." So we went to McDonald's at 8:30 in the morning, and he always wore brown shoes, even at 8:30 in the morning. Wingtips. Honest to God. Now, I wanted to buy him a pair of other kind. But anyway, we sat there, and I shared my experience with him. I said, "I'm having such a struggle with this because I'm not going to get it honestly. I'm being paid off." And so he let me talk. And then he said to me, "How's Carol doing?" I said, "She's fine." "And how's Paul doing?" He was up at UVA, right up the road. "And how's James?" And I said, "Yeah, he's got 12 years in the program now. We're really blessed to have him doing that than what he was doing." And what he did was he said to me, "Ron, I'm going to make two comments to you. One is you are putting your faith in money, not in God. You're pursuing money, and every defect of character, like we talked about in steps 6 and 7, showed up for me as I was pursuing that. Dishonesty, anger, people-pleasing, all of it, just to make the money." And he then challenged me, and he said, "Ron, what kind of a husband are you? What kind of a father are you?" You see, I was never home. After I sobered up, I decided to become a workaholic to prove just how good I was sober. And it was just horrible. And he said to me, "Don't go through life without respecting the greatest thing that God ever gave you, and that's the closeness of your family." And boy, did that ring with me, because that man, I had the utmost respect for him. And then he said to me, "When you drive from here to Charlottesville. It was October. He says, take a look at the picture God painted for you. All the leaves changing. He said, it's just beautiful. And then here's how he answered my take on the money. And this was the second thing he said to me. Whenever you're faced with a decision like you're faced with, think about it this way. You got a chair next to you and God's sitting in it. How would you answer? And then he said, I got to go, and thanks a lot for coming to visit. So simple. All from here. I would have never known Hollingsworth. And like that. Now, bear with me. I have one more thing to say. Hang on, guys. When Doc died, a member of Alcoholics Anonymous called the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And this was in 85 latter part. And this gentleman that wrote the article was in the program, but he was prompted by the phone call. And let me read it to you, please. Be patient with me. Doc left legacy of hope for the city's addicted. The first time I saw him, the man was saying to me over the telephone, I thought he was a physician. There was this old man at the meeting whom everybody called Doc, and when he spoke, all of them listened. The caller couldn't tell me his name because Alcoholics Anonymous has a rule about that, but he thought Atlanta should know about Doc Crandall, whom he first met at an AA meeting. Doc really became something of a father figure, continued the man. Last summer, my wife and I were having a difficult time. I sat with Doc beside the pool behind his house, and he listened to me ramble for over 2 hours. When I finished, he said, what you need to do is go home and tell her you love her. Simple as that. And he was right. People tend to listen when they know someone is an expert. The caller had recognized those qualities in Doc, a man who had failed many times in life and in love and battled back to conquer both. When Doc met his last wife, he had been an alcoholic for more than 30 years. Between the two of them, they had ended 10 marriages. That was 18 years ago, and he never took another drink or married another woman. Oh my God. And let's see. And he began to live for other people as a way of saving his own life. Doc ran a dry cleaning business in Cobb County, but it was really something he did when he wasn't counseling alcohol and drug addicts, which he did most of the time once he had brought order to his own life. He would get calls during the night, and he would get in his car and find the caller, then keep him with him at work the next day or until he sorted out his thoughts. For a period of time, Doc's wife had a good job in Dayton, Ohio, so he moved his work and his counseling there, forming a men's workshop that augmented the official AA program. When the couple returned to Atlanta, Doc started a twice-yearly retreat at Rock Eagle that was geared primarily for newcomers to addiction rehabilitation. Most of them couldn't afford the fee, so Doc arranged payment for them. Their repayment consisted of a promise to sponsor others once they had gotten back on their feet. Doc felt that was the way to build a chain of good works that would never die. That's why now that Doc is dead himself, his legend has become just as important as his life was in bringing hope to those afflicted by the hell of addiction. He was 69 when he died, a sudden event that caused hardly a ripple in the headlines, but ripped at the fabric of the alcohol and drug subculture like a giant knife. When news of the death of the old dry cleaner spread through the grapevine, a memorial service was organized in Dayton, Ohio. Although Doc hadn't lived there in 6 years, more than 200 people attended. In Atlanta, nearly 500 people attended a service, although some had never met him, only heard of his legend. They learned how, on the morning of his death, Doc got a call from a young friend who was distraught. Doc walked into the kitchen and told his wife he would have to leave again, for he was afraid the young man was about to commit suicide. When Doc arrived, bear with me. When Doc arrived, the man was holding a shotgun. His father was pleading with him to calm down. Doc reached for the shotgun. In the struggle, the gun fired and ripped into Doc's stomach. He spoke once. He said it felt as if his stomach was on fire. Then he died. When the young man who owned the shotgun received his first furlough from the mental hospital, Doc's wife went to pick him up and take him to an AA meeting. Doc's wife did that. I knew he loved Doc, and Doc loved him, she said. She said one of Doc's friends mentioned he had always wondered what he would do if Doc was not here anymore. He said there was only one acceptable answer, and that was to keep doing things the way Doc did. Those Doc helped will help others, and then they in turn will help others, she said. That way, the chain that Doc started stays alive. In a way, he stays alive too. And the proof in the pudding is all of you gentlemen here for this weekend. Thank you for your patience.
Hey guys, I got a Bill Hollingsworth story I want to tell. And it goes all the way back to my first time being here. We was around at the Cranard building, and they had those marble benches. Some of you guys might remember the marble benches. And it was a Saturday, and everybody was congregating out front. And I walked up to Bill Hollingsworth and somebody. They were sitting on one of those marble benches talking, and he said, "Oh, come on, Jule, sit down next to me." And I sat down, and they talked. And later on that day, I walked up to the building, and he was standing there talking to somebody, and he said, "Hey, Jule, how you doing?" And I told him I was fine. I was a newcomer, man, and actually, I was probably the only black guy here at the time, and I had gotten over my fear of y'all relapsing, so I was just trying to find my way around, you know what I'm saying? And every time I walk up to this guy, he called me by name and made me feel happy, made me feel all right? So I finally got up the guts to say, "Bill, where do you know me from?" He said, "I just met you the other day. I just read name tags." And I came back to Atlanta reading name tags. You want to scare somebody at a Burger King, call her by her name. He did that. He showed me, he made me feel welcome, and one of the things I took away from that was that a guy coming here new needs to be made to feel welcome, because they don't know what they're getting themselves into. And half of them, if I could have escaped and went back to town, I probably would have, but it's too far away. Bill Hollingsworth just made it all right for me to stay. I didn't get a whole lot. I got my sponsor, but this workshop didn't flower for me until the next time. The second time I came back, the second time, had a pretty good idea what was going to happen, and I began to grow.
A quick story about Doc Crandall and Bill Hollingsworth. Back in the 80s, and typically on a Sunday we have a quote-unquote spiritual speaker. And that Sunday it was Hollingsworth. And this was in the Cranard building. We had a loaded house, it was full. And Doc Crandall and I were in the back, just leaning against the table. There was no chairs, the place was full. And Bill Hollingsworth told his story and his recital and what he had given us in a spiritual sense. And he was halfway through his talk, and he said, "It's going to make me cry." He said, "Can we just be silent as you've ever been for just a few minutes and think about what God has given us. The room went deadly silence. And after about 20 seconds, the bells in the chapel went off. 12 bells rang during that quiet period, and everybody was just flabbergasted. Doc and I were back at these tables crying like babies. You know, I'm not saying timing is something in this world, but timing is everything. That's what we needed right at that point. It was just so spiritual that it made sense for that to happen. And when we have our spiritual meetings, whether it's a step or whether it's a Sunday, those are the things that I've grasped that have kept this crazy world of ours safe. I'm going to just lay this out a little bit personally. I've got two friends in here that came down from Nashville, and Herb and I mentioned the other night that my wife passed away when she had 37 years sober. The reason that's important to me personally is that I was married 3 times to the same woman. And that means that her and I went through drunk, sober. And that's meaningful to me because that's my legacy, my personal legacy, that I've had the ability to pass on to the people I sponsor who have either had marital problems or whatever they might be going through. It's a very personal thing to talk about those kind of issues, but that's what we have to do when we want to open up about what our life is really about, the good times, the bad times, and the times we need to share things that nobody else wants to tell us, but they will if we just listen. And that's what the legacy is so important for me to pass on, that it's not as important that you're here. What's important is that you have something to give and you're ready to pass it on to somebody that you care about. Questions?
My name is Paul McKee, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Paul.
I don't know whether I should say this or not, but I've heard all my life about the 3 wise men, and today I'm looking at the 4 wise men, and it's great. I've enjoyed so much of what it is.
If you spot it, you got it.
Yeah, you got that. You got that. No. But anyway, I was transferred to Atlanta in 1987. I didn't know about the rock. And the sponsoree, his name, some of you remember him, was called Raul. And Raul, after I'd been down there, he said, I've been to this place called The Rock. And I said, oh, that's fine. I said, these retreats are good. I've gone to a few of them when I got sober in Richmond, Virginia. Well, I came down with him, not too enthusiastic, I'll be honest with you. But it kept growing. The importance of The Rock kept growing. And I couldn't help but think when I first got into good old AAs, everyone up there and my sponsor would always say, the God you walked in, that's fine, but he didn't keep you from drinking, did it? You've got to constantly, as long as you're in AA, you got to constantly get a bigger God. And I'm going to say, as I look around, the Rock Eagle has helped me immensely to get a bigger God. And last night, I've kind of been out of commission for a while, But last night I look around and I couldn't help but thinking, I think I did. And I was told that, Paul, you're looking for the face of God. Why don't you look for the face of God? And this is what I forget from these things. I said, well, I believe in the grace of God. We have a slogan that says, only by the grace of God. And he was told, it's a slogan, Paul, and it's a good slogan. But if you really want to see the grace of God, just slowly look at all these alcoholics in the room. And then you find and see the grace of God. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Paul.
We're going to open it up. Anybody else want to share? Questions are great.
I'm Brian, I'm an alcoholic. And I just wondered how many workshops have grown out of the Atlanta Men's workshops now, because the website says that at least 12 of them, right? So, I mean, do they meet like every month of the year? Or?
Off the top of my head, I can think of 5.
Five? Wow.
Yeah.
There's like a total of 10 all throughout the year here.
Two that are the original rock.
They keep saying the heavy hitters group sponsors the one in January.
Yep.
And then there are other groups that sponsor other ones throughout the year.
What he's asking is, are there more than, how many are here at this facility? And there's 5 different groups. It's this one twice a year, and then Jule and the heavy hitters are here. And so there's a total of 5 different groups that have workshops here in a year. Women? Doc, are you trying to hide a finger? Or? Oh. 3?
3.
You're still my hero.
I'm Sam. I'm an addict, alcoholic, and I would just like to thank you guys for being here for me.
Did y'all hear that?
Yes, but
More important, thank you for
being here for everybody. You know what's unique about this beautiful place is that when Paul said it, we're all miracles. Think back of your last 4th step, where you were, and where are you today? The beauty of this program is when I have a struggle with like doing a 4th and a 5th step, I go to the 4th and 5th step session here. And the people that share, that's what we're there for. That's the whole focus, is talk about the 4th and 5th step. When I wanted to focus on family afterwards, it was here I learned how to do that. My kids actually tell me, quit it, Dad. We have friends. We don't want to be hanging around with you all the time. So, they clarified that one for me, is that my actions as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous will take care of the family, And then sponsorship, same thing. I was afraid. I felt I had nothing to give. And, I was told here that, my God, if you've been sober 30 days, that's more than the guy is that's sitting with you. So don't go and try and say you're qualified or unqualified. So I learned here how to be a good sponsor. And we all know that that's how we get to continue to be sober, is by working with others. Working with others. They keep, individual people, if you go through the book, they keep us sober for 25 weeks, while we're going over the books and the 12 and 12. So this to me is just, I mean it, a beautiful place to be twice a year. But it's you guys that make it happen. So thank you for being here.
Very quickly, stop and think about the states that we represent when we come here. And I don't know how many years ago the Spider team started and how important that has been overall to bring new guys in, because sponsors are bringing new guys in all the time. And that becomes endless, because that's part of our legacy right there. It's leaving us more to grow every time we have a workshop, and 139 new guys show up from God knows where, but they're here.
Richard, alcoholic.
Hey, Richard.
So I'm grateful to you guys. I'm here because of guys like you. Bill Sanders, Hoyt Allison, George Brown, Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith was a high school football coach. You knew you got hugged when you walked up and Jimmy Smith gave you a hug. I walked into this place scared 25-year-old, and I met men like these and men like those guys I just mentioned. And I wanted to be a part of this. I didn't want to leave. So in '88, I kept coming since then. So thank you guys to your commitment to this workshop. I think about those guys and the ones that have passed and some I've forgotten, and it's just remarkable the men you meet, where they came from, and the people they are today. Role models, every one of them. Steve Orr, Mike DeCamp. So thank you guys, and thank you for everyone that commits to this workshop and keeps coming back year after year. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing up those names. They all ring a bell.
I want to point out that me and Richard, Ron talked about Ed Waits and Steve Orr with the sex and sobriety workshop. My grandmother died, and I went to my sponsor and I told him what was up, and he wanted us to do the grief and he assigned me to a grief and acceptance workshop, and he assigned me and Richard. You remember that, Richard? And me and Richard did the first grief and acceptance workshop. And the thing I want to say about that is that things are born here out of the need to survive our dilemma. You know, I was grieving and didn't even know that existed. You know what I'm saying? I was using when my grandfather died, but I was here, clean, sober, trying to recover, when all of my feelings were there. I was completely aware, and and I was always afraid of what would happen to me if my grandmother died, and she died. And this workshop was where I went for sanctuary. And it wasn't a place where I got coddled. My sponsor made me do a retreat, made me do a workshop on grief and acceptance. And that helped me survive. And that particular workshop has become sort of like a standard. Pops up every now and then here, pops up at the Heavy Hitters workshop. And you know, we've learned how to deal with life-on-life term issues. And we just learned those kinds of things, and that's part of our legacy, is how we help one another survive our legacy, our life-on-life term issues. My sponsee, Doc Larry, his son died. He got murdered, and I was afraid of what Doc was gonna do. And Doc looked at me and said, "I'm gonna do what y'all told me to do." And he did it. And you know, I don't want to tell his story, but we address some stuff here. This ain't just, like I said the other night, this ain't just a mutual admiration gathering. We come here, we work. We deal with stuff. And we try to get our minds right to survive our own insanity. And I just wanted to kind of remind Richard that not only did you come here, you came here and contributed, and not just, you know, being on a committee. We actually got down in the trenches and we worked on real issues.
I'm going to steal a little bit of his thunder. He's the guy that comes up at the start of our meetings and gives us a challenge. I'll throw this out at you guys. Find that piece of information from another guy that you work with or that you don't know yet and take that legacy with you. I was here maybe in the 80s, and we were in the auditorium at the time. And I was walking out to my car out in the parking lot out there. And there was another guy walking, and he had a new tag on, new guy. And I said, "How's it going?" He said, "I don't think I belong here." And his name was Ray. Well, that was an instant connection. I said, we talked for a minute, and I said, "Well, why don't you just stick around and see if maybe, I don't know." Okay. Ray's health is not good right now, but he celebrated 28 years sobriety recently. That's the legacy that I want. That's the legacy I'm talking about. When you make a connection with another person in this program, you carry it for a lifetime. You really do. Who else?
My name's Will. Grateful to be here and grateful for the recovery process and the healing process. I'm an addict. This place is very, very humbling. Along with healing, learning everything I could possibly learn. I'd be pooping dead tired. So the day was inspirational for me because I was like, wow, I'm actually trying to hit every meeting, see what I can get from it. Because what else is the reason for being here? Whatever reason to come here to a retreat where we all trying to get healed or being healed by just doing what we got to do, which is what? It's a retreat. We got meetings. Go to the meeting. So I said, I'll make every meeting I can possibly make. And if I get something from one, then I'll go and I'll dip into another one. So I understand now clearly what the retreat at the Rock is all about. It's about going to these meetings, listening to these examples of men who have been through addiction, struggle, oppression, and sitting there, humbling yourself, and getting what you can get from it. And I'm grateful to be here. I want to tie into a scripture with it. 2 Corinthians 5:17. My higher power tells me that upon coming to him, he's made me a new creation. Old things that I used to do are washed away. And I say that because no matter what I've done in the past or how I kept coming back, I've been fighting addiction for about 5 years now. But this time I'm seeing that, it's because I didn't leave what I had behind me and move forward. Because he's given me an opportunity to move forward. What am I going to do with it? So I'm grateful to be here. Like I said, I pray that somebody else gets blessed the way I've been blessed too. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name's Happy Jim, and I'm glad to be here as well. I was brought here by somebody who, was shown how to live when they got here. They didn't fit in either, and they've told me stories about you guys. And I thought, man, if them guys can do it, I'll go check it out. I've literally grown up coming here and watching you guys. I believe you guys were scumbags, No, I mean, when I hear you guys talking, I believe you guys were like me. And then I go outside and I'm thinking, when I'm first coming around here, I'm thinking, man, this is some pretty high duty stuff they're talking about. But then I'll hear you guys talking about God, going to God. And then I watch you guys embrace each other. And that's beautiful. When I got here, I was so trashed. And I couldn't even imagine what you guys do, ever. It was something I wasn't used to at all. And then one night, Jule says, the challenge is to don't leave here with what you brought in. And I sat back there with such a chunk, I knew I wasn't going to leave it. I wasn't going to do it. And I went back out in the world with it, telling myself, all I got's a little piece that's broken right now. I'm doing pretty good. I'm fixing a lot of stuff. I'm just carrying around this little piece. And it came a time it almost killed me. And it was sexual dysfunction. And I came back to a workshop, and there was a guy named Steve Orr in Sex and Sobriety. And I thought, man, I got to check this out. And I found out that there was an answer as well. And I also went to another one that was, is your wallet sober? I've learned so much about how to live as a sober man, putting God first, that I can be free. And I learned it from you guys. I learned it by watching. We're watching. Whether you guys know it or not, we're watching. And I'm proud to be part of this thing. I've been the golf cart ambassador. I got to do an early bird meeting with Ricky down in Central Florida. I've got to chair the Sex and Sobriety. I was with Steve Orr the last time he did it. He and I co-chaired that thing. And what a gift that you guys have shown me. This workshop, I would have never came here if that guy said, let's go. I was once like you and didn't fit in. And it's so powerful. During the COVID, when they didn't have it, I was so freaked out. I was like, finally, I find something that I can feed on, that I can go learn from, and then you guys had it the next year, maybe 6 months later. I was so grateful, and we're back, and all that stuff was awesome. The first time I was here, the guy I came with, I said, I'm tired, I'm going to bed. He said, what are you talking about? And I said, I'm going to bed, it's 11:30. He says, no, we're going to go find a new guy. And I was a new guy a year. And I'm like, what? He goes, we're going to go find the guy shaking like we are, and we're going to talk to him. And that's the juice right there, you know? And I learned everything I learned that I take back to my home groups, and that I learned here. And it's no joke. I love workshops. I got friends all over Atlanta because of the workshops. Real friends. I love you guys. You know, when you guys say you love me, I know you mean it, because I have that joy in my life I never had. You know, I got a chance at a good life, brand new life. So, man, thank you guys.
Hey, I'm Larry. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. And all my friends do call me Doc.
Hi, Larry.
Each one of you men, I'm looking at 4 of you all, and each one of you all have poured into me. I have taken your experience, your strength, and your hope. And Jule is my sponsor. And Jule has been my sponsor for 39 years. Wow. He hadn't fired me, and I ain't fired him. 39 years of coming here. This is my 70th rock. I've been to 70 of these because of that man right there. And then my granddaddy sitting over there all pompous like he ain't got nothing to say. The one that tell the Polish jokes. He has been pouring into me for years. And he taught me various things, how to be a man, how to lend a hand out to the next man, how to hold my head with pride. And yeah, Ray, you too. You know what you did. I know what you did. And it's all good. I remember when my son was murdered. You talked to me. You pulled me aside. When my baby brother committed suicide, you was there. Pete, I think you was around too. Don't act like you getting away from nothing. Over there all quiet and want to hide. But these men are responsible for me and my life. A lot of things I do, it's because of that man right there. I used to be jealous when I came here because everybody would be around him and call him his sponsor. And I said, no, that's my sponsor. And what he told me, he said, build a fellowship around you. And that's what I have tried to imitate. It's the things that he has done for me. Sherlock and I started the golf tournament right here because old Sarge would say, you don't come to the Rock to go play golf. You come to the Rock to learn. And so we decided that we would show him. And we started a scholarship fund, which has brought a lot of men here because of the fund that Sherlock and I started because of them. You know, this is about giving back. This is about creating something that's going to go on way beyond you. I remember when Sherlock put his golf bag in our car without asking, because he was a newcomer, and he says, wherever y'all going, I'm going with you, and I play golf too. I mean, that was it. And he got in the car, we went away, and we haven't been able to get rid of him yet. But I just, you know, I love you guys. I'm glad that this meeting, because they need to be acknowledged. You know, they do a lot of stuff around here and they get over in the corners and hide and have their people talking to them. People find them. But they need to be up front because these are the men that we pattern ourselves after. And I love each one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Johnny, and this is my first experience here. I've been to a lot of rooms in Atlanta. Oh, y'all want me to stand up? Okay, I'm Johnny, and this is my first experience here. I normally don't leave from the outside of Atlanta. I never left outside of Atlanta. I find my meetings down there, and I started traveling in 2017, going from treatment to treatment, trying to find my way, trying to find some help, trying to seek somebody to help me, guide me, because my mom couldn't do it, my daddy couldn't do it, I couldn't do it. So I came inside the room and started listening, paying attention. You know, I watched fellas like y'all inside the rooms, how their life was built up. And I was like, I want to live like that. But I was looking at the wrong peoples at that moment because their lifestyle wasn't my lifestyle. I was that thug that you couldn't tell me nothing. I didn't want to hear what you had to suggest because you didn't live the way I live, but I turned out to be, I was wrong. You probably lived worse than I was living. And I sat down in 2017 and finally bust the big book open and started reading. And when I revealed there's some things that I didn't know about myself, that I was a cheater, I was a liar, I wasn't honest, I was disgraced to myself, to my family. So I stepped back. I had kids at the time, so I stepped back. They didn't want to be bothered with me. So I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And God finally spoke to me and told me, he said, son, you need to step out the way and let me help you. And my mom, she was a pastor, so she told me, she said, start coming to church. I said, go to church? I said, that ain't gonna help me. She said, well, why don't you give it a chance? I said, Mom, I go to the room. She said, no, start coming to church. Build that with it. But me being stubborn, hard-headed, I didn't want to hear that. But what it took for me is when God removed my mom from me, my enabler, my daddy, my son, my brother, all within 1 year was taken away from me. And I was like, I'm on the island by myself. What am I to do? And God told me, he said, it's time to stand up, Johnny. Time for you to look in the mirror and think about what I've been telling you before I took them. So today, I tip my hat to you brothers. And all you brothers that's sitting here with me. Because I'm loved. I see this. I'm in a program right now. Been in the system 9 months now, clean. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy. I'm at peace with myself now. I stopped running. I stopped chasing my own tail. So today, I thank all y'all brothers, man, because I wasn't coming. Somebody invited me. I wouldn't have never known that was here. Like I said, I never left from my offering over there in that hole. I thought that was the life. But I got a life today where I can see clearly and understand y'all much more better. Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
I'm Sherlock, and I'm an alcoholic addict. I will. The thing that I wanted to bring to the attention of a few of you in the room is that this retreat just don't happen in a vacuum. There's a group of men who get together before this thing happened and decide how it's going to go down, who's going to lead the breakout sessions, how we going to get the food ready and different things. Called a committee, you know. And I was, at one point in time, just flabbergasted by how you people could do this stuff, you know. And then I look around, those guys up on the stage have been part of the committee. They have been part of the responsible body that causes this to happen. They're just not up there because somebody decided they like to have them up on the stage. They got a little bit of knowledge. They got a little bit of experience that all of us could benefit from. But I want you all to give them a hand for what they have done to cause this to be. They're just part of the committee. Thank you.
My name is Bo. I'm an alcoholic. I enjoy hearing the stories. So, and I'd like to hear maybe a question for each of you. What is your fondest memory out of all of the rocks that you've been to? It could be a funny story, could be a heartwarming story, but what is your fondest memory that comes to mind?
I'm trying to think I'll tell you what, I don't know if this is my fondest memory, but this is something that impacted me a lot, and I mentioned it in our cabin meeting yesterday. I don't think I heard it this weekend, but the first time I came here, and many times after that. One of the things they said at the beginning of The Rock was, if you see a man alone, go talk to him. If you see a guy walking by himself, go walk with him. If you see somebody you don't know, introduce yourself. This is not the place to be alone. This is not the place to go and wander off by yourself and isolate. All right, we're here to connect. We're here to be brothers and to be part of the fellowship. And that is something that I've carried with me. I've said that in our retreat that my home group has, and I got that from The Rock. I really can't emphasize the importance of that. That means a lot to me. I try to carry that spirit into every rock that I attend. And while I have a chance to talk, let me say one other thing about legacy. And this isn't The Rock specifically, but this is AA and what we carry from here back into our lives and back into the world. So my father was an alcoholic. My grandfather, his father, was an alcoholic. His father killed himself, hung himself, because of the pain of the way he was living. That's my legacy. A lot of pain and anguish and violence, lots of violence. And in fact, I say, I tell people this, it's kind of hard to believe. I knew it was strange when I was a kid, but I didn't really know how unusual it was till I was an adult and sober to be a 12-year-old and to ask your grandfather, tell me a story about somebody you killed, and then he would. He did that multiple times, and he killed multiple people. He was an immigrant and my dad was too, from what's now Slovakia. Big drinkers. Anyway, that's the legacy. By the grace of God, I got sober. And I didn't have anything to do with it, but two of my three brothers, all alcoholics, one didn't make it. The other two are sober 39 and 44 years. Maybe just because they knew it was possible, if I had any impact on them. My dad died sober 25 years. So I have two sons who are not alcoholics. My brothers have another 9 kids total, no alcoholics. I think there's 13 grandkids that are between 1 and 18. So far, so good, no alcoholics. The biggest difference is that none of them grew up afraid. For me and my brothers, for my grandfather, maybe for my great-grandfather, as far as I know, fear ruled our lives. Never knew what was going to happen next. It was violence and chaos and insanity all the time. So, when you talk about legacy, this legacy of sobriety and sanity, you can't put a price on that, and I thank you for that.
You make a valid point about the connection that's needed between us. The depth of our communication, at least in my experience, has been that I just can't leave it here. I got to take it with me out there too. And I say in my home group, I remember your faces. That's what I take home with me. I remember what you said. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And I don't have to second guess myself about knowing who I am. I just want to be able to do two things. That's live sober and pass it on. All right? Who else?
Well, I don't have one favorite story because I have a lot of retreats. So I'll just tell you the most current one, the ongoing one. and I was sitting at my cabin, and my sponsor got out, and he's always walking fast, and I was yelling at him to get his attention, and he turned around, and I asked him which cabin he was in. He was right in front of it, but he was walking with Paul McKee. And Paul McKee is one of my heroes, right? And I hadn't seen Paul in a couple of workshops, maybe even a couple of years. And thank you, Doc. That's my phone. And I was just so glad to see Paul that it just lit up the day. And I walked over and we had words, and he looks better than his sponsees was saying he looked, and I was just happy to see him. And then just before we came to do this little session, I saw Bill Montgomery sitting there, and Bill had fallen a few weeks ago, and we I missed him at a rock, because I have heroes here. And when I come here, I mean, a lot of them, some of them are major heroes like Paul and Bill Montgomery and my sponsor, but then there are other heroes that I have that make my day to see them. Richard Shellman, Philip, Art. There are guys that just I am glad to see, and it is in this thing we're doing is so, I call it polydimensional. You just can't have one. We ain't one guys. We ain't one people. We 1,000 is never enough. You know what I'm saying? So my happy times, even establishing a relationship with you, next time I see him, I'll be glad to see you. And that came from people sharing on what is cool, what is important. My ideas about what's cool and what's important were a little off center. And from doing this, I get to understand and be able to actually try some of the stuff that I hear here. And one of them is being able to allow you to deliver yourself to me. At the same time, I'm willing to deliver myself to you, my whole self, not just a physical God, a spiritual God, the mental God, the intellectual, whoever I am, have it all right there when we speak, And I learned that kind of stuff here, man. And to be able to do it with somebody I already have a relationship with, I mean, you come to the Rock, we brothers. I don't care if we find each other, in Little 5 Points or, at a truck stop in Mableton. We brothers. You know what I'm saying? And that's the kind of stuff that this has given me. I'm never alone.
Thanks, Jule. Bo, other than what I've shared with you about Carol, my experience with her and then with Hollingsworth, I would tell you that one of the major important things I've learned here, some of you know I studied to be a priest and didn't have a God there. I got my God here because this was a caring, loving God. And when I've had the issue with Carol and her illness, I didn't think about a drink. Just like Jule said, I picked up the telephone and I started talking to men and recognized that I have no control. That's an illusion. That whatever God's plan is on earth as it is in heaven, that's what occurs. And I learned here too, Doc had the worst, where his son gets murdered. My son got involved in sandwich bags. We noticed our sandwich bags were really falling short in the kitchen. And we put 2 and 2 together. All the cars coming down this one way in, one way out street were picking up dry goods. And I was the world's greatest enabler. Found Solicitor General to get the right judges for my son. And what finally ended up happening is I turned it over. And when I turned it over, God works sometimes in not so kind of way. My son got busted in Athens, Georgia, and he's before the judge, who I never talked to, and the judge says to him, "Son, you're at the age where you can go to Crowbar Hotel now, but I'm going to give you a second offering. I'm going to give you NA or AA." That was the joyous moment of my life. And I learned it here, to turn it over. I learned the God of my understanding here, the spiritual nature. When Doc's son passed away, there was no hesitation on anybody's part about asking for prayers. Like Jack said, he doesn't know what God looks like or where he lives, but the fact is that he still prays. And we can all do that. And if you think of the number of friends we have that aren't alcoholic, how many of them get together in a room for an hour during the week and talk about God? Not my friends anyway. But that's what we have. When I say I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic, I am so glad I'm an alcoholic. I have a way to live, and I have men like you who, like Jule said, we'll run across each other, or you will share something in the room here, and I'll find your number, and I'll call you and talk about it. That's pretty special, because we just let go and let God. So thank you both.
No problem.
Philip.
I can get up. I'm old, but I can stand up. I'm Michael, and I'm one of these guys too. And I
Put the mic
met.
on.
Not on?
No.
It's on, but I have to hold it close to my face. It's not going to hurt me. And I met you for the first time at a town north of Atlanta. One of the things that age has given me is a poor memory, especially for names and places. It's annoying, but it is what it is. And AA has taught me how to be acceptable. Thank you. I put this in the back of my throat for you guys to hear me. Ricky. That was my first meeting. That was the second meeting that this group had, was that little town. Do you remember the name of that little town? Toccoa. Yeah, that's correct. Yes. I had one of my friends who was a priest up there. He was a psychiatrist, and he lived up there. But he didn't go to AA. He didn't need to. But that's the first meeting I had, and of course, all I heard was this: "Whoop, there he is! Whoop, there he is!" And it was you coming in. You remember?
I wasn't there.
You don't remember that? Wow. Well, at least, yeah, it was just a big deal, because that's where I first met you, was at that meeting up in Toccoa. Right. And I've been coming just about ever since. I've missed maybe 2 or 3 since the beginning of this whole group. Yeah, it's been wonderful. And every time I come, I keep thinking, well, I'll give my place to somebody else next year. I never do it, because I'm addicted to this place, And the people I meet here are just, I don't know, it makes my world so much bigger, that much more warm and fulfilling. I'm just so blessed to be fucking alive, not to mention. I was in the practice of anesthesia. I came with Steve Orr that first meeting. And my field was one of giving other people drugs and then sharing them. Which I had a boss who figured out what was going on and got me into this program. It's really cool. And so there is not a moment that I'm here that I'm not aware of how powerful this program is. And I've tried to bring it back to me. I'm in this little town called Jasper. We have one reasonably decent AA meeting there and one not so reasonably decent NA meeting up in that neck of the woods. But it's still powerful. And I've tried to get some of those guys to come up here, and so far I haven't been very fortunate. But I have a great love for all these men up here and all you guys down here. And there's several faces I've seen here for a long time. Anyway, I'm grateful to be alive and be sober. As long as I can remember who I am, I'm okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Bob K., recovered alcoholic. I've been coming for about 25 years, and I'm over here, gentlemen. Can't see me, I'm sure. I tell you, the 12 steps didn't get better when you come here to the steps. They're the same. The food's average. The sleeping arrangements suck. What makes it so important to come to the Rock is the people. Talk about the heroes. Ron was on the road trip working many years ago, and he called me up in Virginia, and we had dinner. That was probably about 17 years ago, I think, because we made connections. We kept phone numbers. Two other guys that I don't see anymore here are Leroy and Em, and they were legacies here. But what is nice about this is they've connected, and people took care of them when they were sick. Leroy's daughter died, and people just stepped up. Leroy got sick, and Em got sick, and people stepped up. But you don't do that unless you get connected. So I challenge the people who are here for the first time or second time. Get connected with people here. You'll find some friendships you'll never, ever know where you might meet them. Jules was speaking at a conference in Virginia Beach many years ago, I think it was 2008, that I'm on the committee for now. So I met him here, but I saw him at the conference 17 years ago. So it's amazing how you'll connect people all over the country. Thank you.
Guys, we're going to do one more and then wrap it up, but I'm certain if you have questions for any one of these guys, or for that matter, anybody that's shared, we have plenty of time. We got more weekends, so.
I'm Richard, I'm alcoholic.
Richard.
I'm so indebted to you guys up there. I got so many stories and things that I've had with you four men up there. You've just opened up my whole world. And so many other guys here too, because you guys opened up the door for me and allowed me to come in. And God, I appreciate and I love every one of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Gentlemen,
Chris,
thank you all very much
Chris,
for being here.
Can I say one thing
Absolutely, you may.
This is another Bill Hollingsworth story. I was in a meeting one Saturday morning, and Bill Hollingsworth spoke, and he led, he shared, and at the end of it, everybody stood up and was giving him a standing ovation. And Bill Hollingsworth just shut it down. I didn't know what he was doing. He just shut everybody down. He didn't want that. And I think I could speak for the gentleman up here with me. It's really not about accolades. It's not about that. We don't want to be celebrities. And we don't want you to think you have to become a celebrity, right? It's in the substance of what we're doing. That's more important than any kind of applause we could get. You know what I'm saying? That you leave here better than you came. That's what's important. You know, we just happen to have been here long enough, or longer than some of you, and it's beginning to show. You know what I'm saying? But it ain't really about accolades, y'all. I mean, you know, we mean well, we applaud one another and we show our appreciation, but that's not the end product for people like us. We can manufacture some accolades. We can act a fool at a party and people be clapping. You know what I'm saying? We know how to do that. This is a little further up the road than that. And I just want you to know I can speak for my brothers up here, that we really don't want accolades. We really want legacy. We want you to pick up what you got pick up from here what you can take back, bring it back with somebody else, and tell them that's what they got to do. That's what we want. Thank you.
And to add to that is very simply this: the greatest accolade you could give us, like Jule said, is carry what you've learned here and help others get sober. That's the accolade. And I have one other thing I want to say. When Sanders passed away, we had a fellow named Wayne that took on the chairman responsibility. And I have been away from this rock for three years because of my wife's illness. I couldn't leave her. But I want all of you to appreciate, as you come in and you see the charts and the food and all, that that man right there from Charleston, South Carolina, not Georgia, has taken on the chairmanship, and he is the leader who has the following of the committee members, and without him, this would not be here, so please give him a round of applause.
Guys, thank you all very much for coming. Hopefully you all heard something that you can take away, and thank you all for sharing. So why don't we close up in the usual fashion, and then we'll head on.